A unit switch with a marked-off position that is a part of an appliance and disconnects all ungrounded conductors is permitted as the disconnecting means required by this article, where other means for disconnection are provided in specific types of occupancies. This means that the switch on the appliance itself can serve as the main disconnect under certain conditions, but only if there is another way to cut power to the appliance as well. This other means of disconnection provides an additional layer of safety and redundancy. The purpose of requiring a disconnecting means is to allow service personnel to safely work on electrical equipment. By having a clear and accessible way to cut power, the risk of electrical shock or other hazards is significantly reduced. The disconnecting means must be readily accessible and clearly identifiable. This ensures that in an emergency or during maintenance, power can be quickly and safely shut off. The requirement for disconnecting all ungrounded conductors is critical. Ungrounded conductors, also known as hot wires, carry the electrical current. If only one hot wire is disconnected, the circuit may still be energized through another hot wire. Therefore, to ensure complete safety, all hot wires must be disconnected simultaneously. The unit switch must have a marked-off position. This clearly indicates when the switch is in the open or disconnected position, preventing accidental contact with live parts. The marked-off position ensures that anyone working on the appliance can visually confirm that the power is off. The allowance for a unit switch as a disconnecting means is not universal. It is only permitted in specific types of occupancies where additional safety measures are in place. This limitation recognizes that different environments have different levels of risk and require different levels of protection. The other means for disconnection must be readily accessible to the user of the appliance. It can be a circuit breaker, a separate switch, or a plug-in receptacle. The important point is that it provides a convenient and reliable way to disconnect power to the appliance. Consider a scenario in a commercial kitchen. A large mixer is plugged into a wall outlet, and the mixer itself has an on-off switch. In this case, the on-off switch on the mixer could serve as the disconnecting means, provided that the plug and receptacle also serve as another means of disconnection. This configuration meets the requirements of the code because there are two separate ways to cut power to the appliance. Now, imagine a situation where the mixer is hardwired directly into the electrical system. In this case, the on-off switch on the mixer alone would not be sufficient as the disconnecting means. There would need to be a separate disconnecting switch located near the mixer that could be used to energize the circuit. This illustrates the importance of having a readily accessible and independent means of disconnection. The specific requirements for disconnecting means can vary depending on the type of appliance and the occupancy in which it is installed. It is essential to consult the National Electrical Code and any local electrical codes to ensure compliance. Failing to comply with these requirements can result in electrical hazards and code violations. Electrical safety is paramount, and understanding the requirements for disconnecting means is crucial for protecting people and property from electrical hazards. Always consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions about electrical installations or safety. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to ensure that electrical systems are installed and maintained safely and in accordance with all applicable codes and standards. Let's delve deeper into the various aspects of disconnecting means as they relate to unit switches in appliances, considering the NEC requirements and best practices. Firstly, the concept of a disconnecting means is fundamental to electrical safety. It provides a way to completely isolate an appliance or piece of equipment from the electrical power source, allowing for safe maintenance, repair, or replacement. Without a reliable disconnecting means, working on electrical equipment becomes extremely hazardous, posing a significant risk of electric shock or electrocution. Secondly, the NEC specifies the requirements for disconnecting means in Article 422, which covers appliances. This article outlines the types of disconnecting means that are permitted, their location, and their accessibility. The goal is to ensure that anyone working on an appliance can easily and safely disconnect it from the power supply. One aspect of the requirements is the need for the disconnecting means to be readily accessible. This means that it must be located in a place where it can be easily reached without having to climb over obstacles, move furniture, or use tools. The intent is to make it easy to disconnect the appliance in an emergency or during routine maintenance. Additionally, the disconnecting means must be clearly identifiable. This means that it must be labeled or marked in a way that indicates its purpose. For example, a switch that serves as the disconnecting means for an appliance should be labeled disconnect switch or something similar. This helps to prevent confusion and ensures that the correct switch is used to de-energize the appliance. The requirement that the disconnecting means disconnect all ungrounded conductors is crucial for safety. Ungrounded conductors, also known as hot wires, carry the electrical current from the power source to the appliance. If only one hot wire is disconnected, the appliance may still be energized through another hot wire, creating a shock hazard. Therefore, all hot wires must be disconnected simultaneously to ensure complete isolation. Now, let's focus on unit switches as disconnecting means. A unit switch is a switch that is part of the appliance itself, such as the on-off switch. The NEC permits the use of a unit switch as the disconnecting means under certain conditions, but only if other means for disconnection are provided. This means that there must be another way to disconnect the appliance from the power supply in addition to the unit switch. This provides a backup in case the unit switch fails or it is not readily accessible. The NEC specifies the types of occupancies in which a unit switch can be used as the disconnecting means. These occupancies typically include dwelling units, hotels, and motels. The reason for this limitation is that these types of occupancies are generally considered to be lower-risk environments than industrial or commercial settings. In these lower-risk environments, the additional means of disconnection provides sufficient protection. One common example of an additional means of disconnection is a plug and receptacle. If the appliance is plugged into a wall outlet, the plug and receptacle can serve as the disconnecting means. In this case, the user can simply unplug the appliance to de-energize it. This is a convenient and readily accessible way to disconnect the appliance. Another example of an additional means of disconnection is a circuit breaker. If the appliance is hardwired into the electrical system, a circuit breaker can be used as the disconnecting means. The circuit breaker should be located in a readily accessible panel and clearly labeled to indicate which circuit it controls. When using a circuit breaker as the disconnecting means, it is important to verify that the breaker is properly sized for the appliance. If the breaker is too small, it may trip frequently, interrupting the power supply. If the breaker is too large, it may not trip in the event of a fault, potentially leading to a fire or other electrical hazard. In addition to the NEC requirements, there are also best practices to consider when using unit switches as disconnecting means. One best practice is to ensure that the unit switch is properly maintained. Over time, switches can become worn or damaged, which can affect their ability to function properly. Regularly inspecting the unit switch and replacing it if necessary can help to ensure that it remains a reliable disconnecting means. Another best practice is to educate users about the proper use of the disconnecting means. Users should be instructed on how to disconnect the appliance safely and what to do in the event of an electrical emergency. This can help to prevent accidents and ensure that everyone is aware of the safety procedures. Consider a scenario in a hotel room. A hairdryer is plugged into a wall outlet, and the hairdryer itself has an on-off switch. In this case, the on-off switch in the hairdryer could serve as the disconnecting means, provided that the plug and receptacle also serve as another means of disconnection. This configuration meets the requirements of the code because there are two separate ways to cut power to the appliance. However, it is important to note that the hotel should also have a policy in place to ensure that guests are aware of the location of the circuit breaker panel and how to use it in case of an emergency. This provides an additional layer of safety and ensures that guests can quickly disconnect power to the hairdryer if necessary. Now, let's consider a scenario in an industrial setting. A large piece of equipment is hardwired into the electrical system, and the equipment itself has an on-off switch. In this case, the on-off switch and the equipment alone would not be sufficient as the disconnecting means. There would need to be a separate disconnecting switch located near the equipment that could be used to energize the circuit. This is because industrial settings typically have higher voltage and current levels than dwelling units, which increases the risk of electrical hazards. The separate disconnecting switch provides an additional level of protection and ensures that workers can safely disconnect the equipment from the power supply. The type of disconnecting switch used in an industrial setting may also be different than the type of switch used in a dwelling unit. Industrial disconnecting switches are typically designed to handle higher voltage and current levels and are often enclosed in a metal housing for added protection. These switches may also have features such as lockout-tagout mechanisms to prevent accidental re-energization of the equipment. In summary, the use of unit switches as disconnecting means is permitted under certain conditions, but only if other means for disconnection are provided. The specific requirements for disconnecting means can vary depending on the type of appliance, the occupancy in which it is installed, and the local electrical codes. It is essential to consult the National Electrical Code and any local electrical codes to ensure compliance. The electrical safety is paramount, and understanding the requirements for disconnecting means is crucial for protecting people and property from electrical hazards. Always consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions about electrical installations or safety.